friends, Lissa here. I am back in Canada after going for a little visit in Oregon, and I thought I would film a whole bunch of videos for you guys. So today's topic is going to be why you can't use the same classic weight loss rules with a raw vegan diet. It's hard to go from being in the traditional weight loss circle to being in the raw food weight loss circle because we've been indoctrinated since we were little with the specific rules that everyone seems to follow for weight loss. One of those big rules is to eat less. Now, the reason that that doesn't work on a raw vegan diet is because you're just not going to be getting enough food or energy. You need to be eating more often to get all of that nutrition, your protein, your vitamins, your minerals, your hydration, your fiber. You need to eat more in order to get that. But that contradicts the traditional rule of eat less. You know, we always think that we need to eat less to lose weight, but that is not true on a raw vegan diet. You need to eat more. But there is a fine line between eating enough and eating way too much. I do get a few raw vegans who do message me and say that they have been gaining weight on a raw vegan diet. So when we go over what they're eating, they are typically eating way more calories than they actually need. There does come a point where your body actually can't use the amount of calories that you're consuming and will store them. But we don't want to be under eating either. We don't want to be going into a calorie deficit by limiting our food intake. We want to eat enough calories. So on average, it's anywhere from about 1,800 to 2,500 calories. I would say it just depends on your height, your activity level, and a couple other things. But when I was losing weight, I was eating around 2,100 to 2,300 calories a day. If you're looking for a calorie deficit, instead of cutting your calories, try increasing your exercise because this will naturally create a deficit because you'll be burning more calories than if you weren't adding that extra exercise. When I used to calorie restrict in the past, I would always get severe cravings, and this does not work on a raw vegan diet because you start to crave all those foods that you don't want to be putting into your body. So, you know, the chips, the pop, whatever, pizza, Chinese food, the things that I craved hard when I was not eating enough. So skipping meals or eating very small portions, trying to lose weight is just gonna cause more cravings. You're gonna feel hungry and you're gonna feel like the diet isn't working. So you want to increase your calories and don't be scared of increasing your calories. That moves us into the second point where you want to be eating low fat. So for me, I find I do best doing the low fat, raw vegan, high carb for weight loss. I find that when I increase my fats, I do gain weight, and that has been apparent going to Oregon, and we were just having fun eating a lot of avocados, a lot more nuts in dressings than I was used to, but definitely more avocados because for the first 3 years of my journey, I really didn't eat any avocados. I maybe had 2 a year. I definitely wasn't eating very many, but when I was in Oregon, I was eating at least 1 or 2 a day, and that definitely contributed to a little bit of weight gain. So by cutting down on the fat, I did lose the weight that I had gained down there. So you want to make sure that you pay attention to your fat intake. I typically will use just a shot glass worth of nuts or seeds with my evening meal. So I'm definitely not anti-fat, but I do keep it low. If you keep your fat on the low end, you can eat a lot more carbohydrates than if you were eating a high-fat diet. That is why the standard, typical, traditional rule of weight loss is to cut your calories, because if you're eating higher fat, say 30, 40, 50, 60% of your total calories coming from fat, which is typical, then you are forced to limit your calories because you really can't eat a lot. If you're eating a lot of fats are 9 calories per gram, whereas carbohydrates are about 4. So we want to be consuming a lot less fats and more carbohydrates. We want to be getting that fiber. That is the one thing that they do recommend when you're trying to lose weight is to eat more fiber. And a great way to do that is to eat a lot more fruits and vegetables. If you're eating a lot more fruits and vegetables, just decrease your fat and you'll be able to hit those 2,000 calorie marks without the fear of gaining weight. Another thing that they'd like to say for weight loss is to do a lot of exercise. Now, I do highly recommend that you guys exercise. Exercise should be viewed as a health tool and not a weight loss tool. That is one thing that we need to start to change our perception on, is to exercise for health and not for weight loss. Weight loss is going to happen with healthy eating, proper consumption of foods, and drinking enough water. But the exercise, of course, will help, and don't get me wrong, exercise does help with weight loss, but we want to switch our focus. That's the whole point. We don't want to be using exercise as primarily as a weight loss tool. We want to be using it as a health tool to improve our sleep, our digestion, our circulation, your skin, your mood. Exercise is so good. Bone density, muscle strength. For all of those things, we want to be using exercise, but not for weight loss. So switch your focus over and use exercise as a health tool instead of a weight loss tool. This will really help to change your perception. Have you ever heard that you should eat a lot of protein? That is another tip that I see constantly online for weight loss. Now, we don't need the amount of protein that society is telling us that we need. The RDA is already set on the high end, so if you can hit the RDA for protein, which is 0.8 grams per kilogram, not pound, per kilogram of body weight, then you're already doing perfect. You don't need to get any more than that. That's, again, already set on the high end. So pumping yourself with extra protein is not necessarily a good thing. It's hard on your kidneys. It's very acid forming to the body. We don't need that much. And you can get enough protein from a raw vegan diet if you eat enough variety, if you eat enough greens, and you get enough calories. So we want to, again, be eating around the 2,000 calorie mark, because if you're eating a lot of greens and you're eating a lot of food, then you will naturally get enough. I typically eat around 50 to 60 grams of protein a day, which is definitely more than my RDA of 46 grams. So I'm already doing perfectly fine there. I don't need any extra, and I don't need to follow that advice. A tip that I see often as well is to eat nuts for a snack. This, again, is not good on a raw vegan diet because we want to keep our fat intake low. The thing is, people think that a handful of nuts is going to give them energy, but when they tagged fat with a radioactive compound so that they could watch what fat does in the body, fat is always stored as fat. It is never used immediately as energy. We only use fat once our glycogen stores are depleted. So we want to be consuming things that give us energy, like fruits and vegetables. Going to nuts for a snack is not going to help with your weight loss. It is only going to increase your fat percentage and thus create insulin resistance. So the perfect snack is actually fruit or vegetables. You could do something like a fruit vegetable, like tomatoes, cucumbers. You could snack on those. You could make nice cream. You can have bananas, oranges, whatever you want. But that is where you're going to get your energy from. So if you're at work and you need a quick snack, don't head for the nuts and dried fruit. Try to have fresh fruit on hand if you can, because that's going to be your best option. That leads us into the next myth, which is to avoid fruit. I see that constantly online as a weight loss tip, is to avoid fruit. Why would we want to avoid fruit when fruit is so nutrition packed? It's got a lot of fiber, hydration, vitamins, minerals. It is really good, and our bodies run on energy, so we do need to have fruit in our diet. The problem is that society as a whole, like I said, eats too much fat. So the more fat you consume, the less fruit you're able to consume. That is why low carb diets work for the short term, because they are severely restricting their carbohydrates and burning fat from their body. But when they start to add fruit in, if they're eating so much fat, it's going to cause insulin issues and sugar crashes. and weight gain. So we want to cut the fat down. The lower the fat you consume, the more fruit you consume. So think about it that way. If you're eating high fat, you're forced to limit your fruit. If you're eating low fat, you have free reign really to eat as much fruit as you want without going over your body's needs for the day. Pills, 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 and more pills. I see tons of advertisements online for, take this to stop your hunger, take this to boost your metabolism. Really, we don't need any of that. We just need to eat enough food, make sure that our body knows that we're thinking about it, so eating smaller meals more often. We need to constantly be topping up our gas tank, which in turn helps deal with cravings and keeps our energy high so that we don't crash and we don't, end up eating something that we shouldn't. So if you're thinking about the pills, they are not necessary. I'm sure some of them help. I've taken tons of pills in the past during all of my tries trying to lose weight, but I hadn't changed the fundamental problem, which was my diet. I was eating healthy as I could, and including the herbs, but I wasn't eating the way I am now, and I was constantly struggling with weight loss, no matter how many pills I took. When I went raw vegan, I stopped taking all of my supplements except for B12 and vitamin D3, and I lost weight completely effortlessly. I just had to eat whole raw foods just the way nature made them. No need for the pills. So if you guys want to take the pills, again, that's your prerogative, but they aren't necessary and you don't need to follow that advice. I read on one of the forums that the most important thing that you can do for weight loss is to limit your sugar and carbs. The problem is a lot of us, when we think of carbs, now not necessarily every carb that we think of is half fat, but most of them are. Think about pizza, muffins, pastries, donuts, all of those things, maybe a baked potato with sour cream on it, oil on your potatoes, oil in your rice, oil on your salads. A lot of these carbs come with fats, and that is what's causing the problem. So it's not necessarily the carbs that you need to limit or eliminate. Is the fat percentage of the carbs that you're eating. So if you're going to eat a pizza that's 50% fat, then that is the problem. It's not necessarily the carbohydrates that are causing the problem. It's the fat with the carbohydrates that's causing the insulin resistance. So that's what happens when you go low fat and you eat higher carbs. It's a lot easier to lose weight because the fat isn't blocking the insulin from getting the sugar into your cells, which you use in turn for energy. So remember that the carbs that you need to be eating are the healthy carbs, fruits and vegetables. Get rid of the oils out of your diet and limit your fats. We still need fats. Again, I'm not anti-fat. I'm definitely not anti-fat. I believe we do need fats in our bodies to produce hormones and to have healthy skin, but we don't need as much as society pushes on us. We definitely don't need that much fat to lose weight. And then there's cheat days. You guys know my stance on cheat days. I don't believe in them. I think that it's silly to take a day off and treat yourself to things that make you feel crappy, just to have that flavor or as a reward. We need to find other things to reward ourselves. We don't need cheat days. And some websites say that having one cheat day a week isn't going to hinder your efforts at weight loss, but I disagree, because for a lot of us who suffer from food addictions, reading websites that say that it's okay to have a cheat day is actually quite a trigger, because you think, oh, well, it's okay for me to have a cheat day, and then all of a sudden you fall off your diet and you're eating cheat days here and there all over the place, and you're using it to justify eating things that you know you shouldn't, using the word moderation to eat things you know you shouldn't. So cheat days, in my opinion, are not that great, especially if you have food addictions. There is no reason why we should be eating foods that make us feel crappy or that are contributing to our weight gain, sore joints, or acne. We don't need to be consuming these foods. If you know what these foods are, then just stop eating them. It's actually a lot easier to completely get rid of those foods out of your diet than to try and keep them in your diet in moderation. So definitely don't follow that advice. I mean, again, it's your prerogative. If you like cheat days and they work for you, cool. But for the most part, I don't think that they work for the majority of people because it constantly triggers you to fall back into that cycle. This is the last time, this is my last cheat meal, I'm not going to do it again, but you constantly do it again. So it's best to eliminate it altogether. Portion control is another one. I find people trying to eat these really, really small meals, you know, your protein and your vegetables, and you're not getting very many calories because you're calorie restricting, because you're eating high fat. But on a raw vegan diet, you don't need to portion control unless you're eating way too many calories, which I find difficult to do. I find I get way too full around 3,000 calories. I can't really eat higher than that. There are some people who can, and maybe if you're doing a lot of exercise, you can eat a lot more. If you're doing a lot of exercise, some people can get away with a little bit more fats as well. But all in all, you can eat a lot bigger salads on a raw vegan diet, a lot more food than you can on the traditional low carb, higher fat diets. Because again, if you're eating higher fat, higher protein, you know, your meals are going to be quite small, but on a raw vegan diet, you can have giant salads. So you don't have to worry about portion control. If you are portion controlling on a raw vegan diet, you risk increased cravings and not eating enough, feeling sluggish, tired, not enough energy to do your workouts, because we do actually need to eat a lot more food on a raw vegan diet. So the portion control thing does not apply to a raw vegan diet unless you are eating way too many calories. And at that point, you're gonna have to just rein it in a little bit. You still eat a lot of food, just not as much as you were. And then there's always some things from the traditional weight loss circle that you can apply to the raw vegan diet. Would be eating high fiber. You're naturally going to get high fiber on a raw vegan diet. Increase exercise, again, increase your sleep, because sleep is very, very important for weight loss. And when you're on a raw vegan diet, I find personally that my sleep has improved. And with improved sleep comes better stress management. And again, stress is a very, very big factor in weight gain. So if you can, you know, practice yoga, meditation techniques, find ways to de-stress yourself, that will really help with your weight loss as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please click like and subscribe to my channel to get notifications for more. I haven't done very many of these videos for a while because I have been visiting in Oregon. So if this video seemed a little bit haphazard, then I'm just kind of trying to get back into doing the videos. But again, if you liked it, please click like. And you can find me on Facebook, Lissa's Raw Food Romance, on Instagram at Raw Food Romance, and on Snapchat, Lissa Raw Vegan. Until the next video, guys, I love you all. Fruit on.